What it do, good people? I'm JP. This JP Does DIY. Welcome back to the channel. Been a minute since I posted a video, but today I'm back. We're gonna talk about making this nightstand or the end table, whatever you want to use it for. Let's get into it. First things first, someone on Instagram told me to try the miter look, and I was like, I'm down with that. So this is my attempt at a miter box. Wasn't sure how to do this, but decided to give it a try on the table saw. And I just angled my saw to 45 degrees, and I cut both sides, and I just did that for all 4 pieces. Once I got all the pieces cut, I just used some painter's tape to keep the pieces together. I just put little 2 strips on each piece, and then I flipped it over. Took me a minute to figure out how to do it, but wasn't too bad. And I put it together just for a little sample run, make sure everything was good. And then I put some glue down in between each of the slots, and then once again just folded it back up, and it came out pretty good, especially for it being my first try. I was pretty happy with it. I'm making this for one of my friends, and she said that she wanted kind of like unique look for this. So I took some scraps that I had, some 1x3 boards, and pretty much what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make like a little, kind of like a box within a box, more like a border though. So I'll lay it down about 3/4 of an inch from the front, because that's where the drawer fronts are gonna be, and it'll give it kind of like a little display area around the 1/4 inch reveal that I plan on doing. And I just drill like some pilot holes and just use some regular screws to tie it together. I mean, there's other ways you could do it. You could glue it if you wanted to wait for it, but I was being very impatient, didn't want to wait, so I just used some screws because you're not gonna be able to see them anyway when it's all said and done. So I just did this for all 4 sides, and I can kind of achieve that look that I'm looking for. I put down some edge banding to cover up those plywood sides just to give it a cleaner look. It's a pretty simple process. You just heat up the iron and just roll it up. If I could do it again, I would have done this before I put it together, because it would have been a lot easier to do it and a little bit cleaner, but it is what it is, and I'll just fix it next time. Now I know. I cut out a middle piece for the middle divider to separate the top and the bottom drawers. I use pocket holes to put this together, and it's just something to help it make it a little more unique, and hopefully you can see it at the end. Before screwing the boards in, I did use 2 spacers that I cut at the same length just to make sure that it went straight across. Put my 4 screws in and screwed them in, and it turned out really good and on point. Now it's time to install these drawer slides. Put down a scrap piece for the slides to sit on, just to keep it level. Put another one down to make sure it goes straight across and they open pretty good. One day I'm gonna make a video on how I do these drawer slides. My technique is getting there. I'm feeling a lot more confident about it. But I'm gonna repeat this same process for all 4 slides. To make the actual drawers, I'll use the table saw to make sure I make the same cut for each piece, and this way it makes it a lot easier, so I ain't gotta worry about different heights if I try to do it another way. This seems to work out the best way for me, so this is what I'm gonna be doing going forward. And then I'll make the next cut on the miter saw, and then I'll put down a little stop block to make sure that these are the same size. if it's long enough it can actually reach where I have my little stop block. One last thing to do before we start assembling these drawers is I need to do some kind of joinery to put it together, and my go-to has become the domino. Before I used to use pocket holes, and that worked with little success for me because I always had issues with it moving, but this works best for me now, so this is kind of like my go-to, and it made it quite easier for me making the drawers. Now that it's ready to be assembled, I'll just put some glue, put the dominoes in, and we'll put it together, and then after that I'll just put it in some clamps and I'll let it glue dry and we'll be good to go. There's a lot of different ways you can do the drawer bottom, but what works best for me is I just take a 1x4 sheet of plywood, I'll cut it down to the dimensions I need on the table saw, and then I'll just put some glue around the top, and I'll just use a brad nailer to nail it in, and that's the best way that works for me. I do make it a little bit bigger than it needs to be, so then I'll just take my router and I'll just clean it up and make it smooth. To install the drawer slides, I'll just take a few little scraps of 1x4 plywood that I have and put the drawers on that, and then I'll put 2 screws in, the first slot and then the middle, and then I'll take it all the way out so I can put the third one in, and then I'll repeat the same for the top shelf, and it turned out pretty good. I like it. For the drawer front, there's going to be about a 1/4 inch reveal all the way around, so I took one big piece and then I took it over to the table saw and I just cut it in half, and I'm going to use that for the top and bottom. To put the pulls on the fronts, I'm going to use this Craig jig, and it just makes it a lot easier to do it more than once, but I'm going to use this drill and drill a hole through, and then we're going to use that hole and screw it into the actual board, and then be able to pull it out, and then we can put the hardware on. Actually, before we put the hardware on, I'm going to put 2 screws, one on each side, to keep it connected to the board, and that way when I take that middle screw out, it won't go anywhere, and then we can put the hardware on. Decided to go with a single pull for this one, and now everything's starting to come together, and it's starting to look like an actual nightstand or side table or whatever you want to use it for, but you can kind of see it starting to come together now. But I did use the spacer in between, that 1/4 inch spacer, to get the distance and keep that even reveal all the way around. Kind of repeated the same step from the first drawer, and it's looking good. I like the way it looks so far. One last thing to do is put some legs on here. I use these hairpin legs that I get off Amazon, and I just drill a little pilot hole, and then I put the screws in, and I just repeated the same thing for all 4 legs, and it's pretty simple. It turns out clean. There's little grippers that go on the bottom to keep it from scratching the floor, and gives it a clean look. And that's it, folks. The only thing left to do now is just turn this thing over, and we're all done. Thanks for checking out this video. Like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.